Hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, of course.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Melissa Hernandez. I am the committee chapter leader for the Wellness Committee for the Nebraska ACP chapter. We have several committees, and the Wellness Committee is just one of them. Carrie helps lead that with me. Dr. Sagan Chase is also on with us, and she is the Wellness chapter leader for the Kansas chapter. So there are several people joining us from Kansas as well. I'm so excited to have our three speakers here today. We have Dr. Tammy Wichman from UNMC, Dr. Carrie Hoarty from UNMC, and Dr. Nika George, who's a psychologist with Clever Consciousness. So she works a lot with high performing people like physicians. So I'm just going to give like a brief little intro and kind of why we wanted to put on this topic. So high demands on physicians' time and energy make parenting and balancing family life in the modern era very challenging. It can require significant flexibility, shared childcare responsibilities. Physicians navigate high stress schedules, long hours, sometimes guilt, perfectionistic tendencies. So strategies like setting work-home boundaries, utilizing our support systems, and embracing self-compassion can all be very beneficial. So we're going to talk about some of those things and more today. This is going to be a Q&A style seminar. If this goes well, we're hoping to put on more with other parenting or family related topics that are pertinent to physicians. So if after this, if anyone has any topic ideas you want to send to Sagan or Carrie or I, please go ahead and do that. So from there, I'm going to let each of the speakers kind of introduce themselves. Maybe just let us know what you do for work, where you work, what your hobbies are, how many kids you have, and then we'll launch into the Q&A or anything else that you want to tell us about yourself. So whoever wants to start can go ahead.
I'm happy to start. My name's Carrie Hoarty, and I am from Omaha. I'm married. We have 5 kids ranging from 12 to 21. I work at UNMC doing outpatient internal medicine. Trained in Med-Peds, then Jerry, but really just doing outpatient internal medicine. Um, and hobbies would include, I try to like bike, swim, run. I'm not really that great at any of them, but I like to do all of them. And I like to read, and I'm excited to start gardening. Um, and I'm so excited to see so many friendly faces and excited to chat with all of you.
Thank you.
I can go next. So I am Tammy Wichman. I am also married with 5 kids. It's not a prerequisite for this seminar by any stretch of the imagination. I'm also Med-Peds trained, but then did adult pulmonary critical care. And so I do that at UNMC. I am happily married to my husband who's from Omaha. So that's how we ended up here. So we've been here ever since we did fellowship out on the East Coast and have been here for many years since then. Our kids range in age also from 12 to 20, almost 28. And so we have a wide range. So we've been through all the ages. So happy to talk about any of that. And I'm excited to hear your questions.
Perfect. All right, Dr. George.
My name's Nika. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm the owner of Clever Consciousness Behavioral Therapy. I'm based in Omaha, but I see people across the country. I see mostly high achievers, and that ends up being a lot of physicians. Probably half of my caseload right now is physicians, and then the other half is kind of like a mix of, let's say maybe tech folks, veterans, and a couple of other things sprinkled in there. I have 2 kids, so I have a 9-month-old. That's fun. We are still working on sleeping, and I have a 3.5-year-old, so we're in the thick of it right now. Let's see. I'm happily married, and what do I do for fun? Well, in a past life, when I was sleeping and when I returned to sleeping, I do art. I like to run, and I like to sing and do yoga.
And is it true that a lot of your clientele are physicians?
Yep. I would say over half of them are physicians. Um, I have a pretty broad range. You'd be surprised that I have about half and half men and women, which is really interesting because women seek psychotherapy much more. So to have a 50-50 split is not something I was necessarily expecting. And I would say the specialties range. If I'm looking right now, I have this week I have internal medicine, primary care. Um, what is the one who works in the NICU? Good Lord, I'm blanking on that one. We have another internal medicine. We have three surgeons. So that gives you, like, I have a pretty good, we have ortho, um, ENT. So just a pretty big spread.
Mhm. Let's just start with you. How did you kind of get into that, like working with that population of people?
Yes. So I have a specialty area in post-traumatic stress disorder, and that was what my residency and fellowship was in. I began my career in the VA, actually, and I was working with a lot of special forces clients in the post-traumatic stress disorder clinic. And while there, I gathered a certain set of skills that is very helpful to folks who are under high pressure. And then I kind of started to develop an interest actually during COVID of supporting other healthcare providers. So when everything happened, it's funny, I was not thinking I would tell the story, but when everything went down, so to speak, and we were considered to be like mandatory reporting staff, and we weren't sure if there was going to be like FEMA tents. There's a bunch of physicians actually who would come to my office for support, and I was doing kind of like informal work with the physicians, and we were just kind of rallying. And I noticed that there was a lot of similarities actually between my veterans and the physicians, which I think is probably maybe not something folks would have thought about, but is actually the most similar groups I have encountered before, and almost all the same skills that were being used for the like snipers, special forces were also the skills being used for physicians. And so I thought, I'm going to set up some good boundaries in my own life. I think I'm going to have kids. I think I'm going to need to be not on call all the time and not dealing with some very, very intensive stuff. And we're going to scale back a little bit, start a private practice, focus on healthcare providers, and it just kind of took off.
Awesome. All right, so that's so great. So needed, it sounds like. So hopefully you'll have kind of a different perspective from the rest of us today. All right, so kind of a start off question here for the group, and whoever wants to answer first can go ahead and chime in. What are some systems or routines that help your family run smoothly?
So I think maybe it says something about me that I didn't say what I do for fun, but I do enjoy all the kids' activities and I like to run, so I run almost every day. So I think one of the big things is making sure that I take care of myself so that I can better take care of my family. And so like having a way for me to center, and for me, I have a strong relationship with God, and so like that's part of what I do. Getting my run in every morning, and then when we had kids in all different, we're down to just one at home now, but when we had kids in all different directions, honestly, we had a whiteboard, and every day I would just be like, this is where so and so has to be when, so that we could make sure that we were all on the same page. I guess I'll just start with that as one of the things we did.
Yeah.
I would say a system that helps my family stay organized is we have the shared calendar, so anyone who has a device has the calendar on it. Um, and I'm not like raising D1 athletes. Don't tell my kids I said this, but I'm raising like mediocre rec So don't take notes from me if you're wanting your kids to get like scholarships to college. Um, but I think my husband has been better than I was. I think I had not FOMO, but like, oh my gosh, all the kids are getting better than my kids with like, should we register them for everything? And I think my husband was like so much more measured than me about like, they're 8, like, or they're 5, or they're, just don't worry. And some of it, getting them too involved and too high of competitive athletics before their body and their mind is even ready is like kind of not productive a little bit. So my husband was way better than I was about just having them do one, maybe two things, and they're in rec activities. And then a lot of the coaches use like sports apps that auto populate, you can sync your calendars. So I feel like that's super helpful. And then for us, like every Sunday night, we'll just do a calendar meeting and figure out what's going on. What can the kids not go to because they're obligated in 2 places, and then who's driving who where. But again, I think I am not the person to talk to if you want your kids to get college scholarships for D1 athletics and everything, because I'm like, good enough is good enough, and it's more for like fun and physical fitness and socialization. And if they're good, great, and if they're not, that's fine too.
I love that, Carrie. And I think a lot of doctors, like we're probably used to also like excelling in what we did when we were younger. And so I think it's probably hard for a lot of physicians to not be like, put your kids in all the things and like let them be awesome at all these things, because a lot of us are just like by nature kind of perfectionists, or like we like to excel and we're used to excelling. You know what I mean? So that's really cool that your husband kind of helped like rein that in a little bit
Hmm.
to find some better balance.
I really appreciate what you had to say, Carrie, because I feel like so many times what our what our society shares is the expectation that, every child is gonna go. We kind of have that joke in our house. Well, their mom's all upset about that, but they're going D1, right? I mean, and it's interesting because we have equally, problems. We have 2 children and problems with scheduling a 17 and 13-year-old. And our calendar times on Sunday, just like you said, they also include meal time. So I know who's going to be home for meals, what night should I cook, because I'm not going to cook if nobody's here, or when is it leftovers, or when are you on your own. But I have one child who is adamantly passionate about a certain sport, and it has become blatantly apparent. I don't know that will play in college. He would like to, but it has allowed us to at least kind of prioritize a little bit better. And then I have one child who's very much involved in music. So they both do all of like music and sports, but they've been able to see. And I think part of that was never something that we drove. And so I think your approach, Carrie, is really a pleasant surprise for so many of us that feel like you have to have this plan. Their life has to be planned out from 8. And when we have the time to step back and take a deep breath for ourselves to begin with, and then allow the child to kind of help guide. Because I have a partner who I think he was probably the basketball star growing up in the small town, and his kids have not been that. And it's been devastating to him. Like he doesn't know how to deal with it. Bless his heart. Like it's just been hard for him, and he's realizing it, and he's realizing they love other things that he didn't love. So that's been hard. But Dr. George, do you want to add anything to that question?
Sure. So I would say all of the exact same things that everyone here has said. We are striving for mediocrity in my family. We're going B's get degrees, C's get sometimes PhDs in many cases. And that's where we're striving for just medium and happy. If my kids have a good sense of humor and we can like share real genuine warmth, love, and authenticity and talk about the favorite things of our day, who we liked, what we liked, then that's what I'm working with. And the pull is there. Unfortunately, clinical psychologists are also a bit perfectionistic, as you would imagine. And I am intentionally swimming against that particular stream. The nuts and bolts of what I find helpful is additionally on every Sunday, my husband and I sit down and we do like war room, where it's like strategy about who does what task. And we usually stick to the roles that we're best with. So we divide and conquer based on the things that we're most efficient with. So I tend to take on like social and like emotional health types of activities, as you would imagine. Yeah, war room, Sunday morning war room. It's ridiculous. We both worked for the VA. We can't help it. And then he will take on like cooking, cleaning, and like the like very task-based stuff because that is just what we're good at. And we find we waste a lot less time that way. And then if one of those tasks crops up, we just take it depending on whose like wheelhouse that is within. So we don't have to discuss it as often. So for me, at least, the practicals are delegation, 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 and outsourcing as many things as possible that are not things that I could, like, if it is something only I can provide, I will not outsource it. Other than that, I delegate.
I have another, like, I think the question was something about, I don't know what the original question was, but this just came to my mind as well. We do this misnomer Sunday fun day, which is not fun for the kids at all. But I like write everybody's name, including myself and my husband's, and then I like just write all the tasks of like clean the kids' bathroom, clean the basement bathroom, vacuum the stairs, and like everybody will generally get like 4 or 5 tasks, and none of them are horrendous. But it's it's a way to like not have the house be a total disaster, and nobody really cleans maybe to the standard that I would like if I was doing it all, but I don't want to do it all. So again, like good enough is fine. So, and I have found that calling it Sunday Fun Day, which isn't really that fun, and saying we're putting in a half hour or an hour and then just putting on music and cranking it out is helpful. Um, and then if I make them like check out with me, because usually they come down and they mark everything off the list, and like really it's either not done or it's done very poorly. So then we do a little inspection, and that's sort of helpful too. So I mean that divides up tasks. I think there's a lot of ways to divide up tasks where like you can't do this until you do that, and like wheel charts and all that. But at my house we just do like a Sunday fun day, and I try to divvy up the tasks and divide and conquer, and that's been sort of helpful somewhat
Mhm.
weekly.
That's great. I think thanks for all the feedback on that. I think it's all really helpful. Just we can all use tips and tricks to kind of get through. And I also think by doing that, Carrie, you've motivated and empowered your children to know how to be adults that are functioning in society when they go and they share a college dorm room or a house with someone in college. So, or they're married to their spouse. Um, I want to pivot just a little bit. It's also on the topic of schedules, but I wonder if you might share, how do you talk with your children, any of you, obviously this question is for all of you, how do you talk with your children about what happens if you need to miss an event that they would hope you would be at?
I can start, I guess. So I try and plan in advance as much as I can if it's something big that they want me to be so that I can arrange my work schedule. But sometimes it just doesn't work, or they tell me the day before that there's something that they want me to be at. And I just have to be very clear with them. I'm sorry, this was scheduled first. I have to be at work at this time. But I think they know that I will prioritize when I can. No.
I would echo that too. I try to go to the important things. And of course, having more than one child, it's like, well, you have a track meet and you have a baseball game, so I can only go to one. And we kind of divide and conquer. And if there's something else that we need, either like a grandparent, aunt, uncle, or just neighbor to go to, like for carpooling, if my son goes to baseball with a neighbor who carpools and we can't be there, I also think it helps them know that they're not like the total center of the universe if you miss things. The only thing I kind of get worried about is like concussions. And whenever I'm like, can you be my kid's surrogate parent because I can't make it and you have permission to take him to the hospital and treat him if needed? um, so more I worry about like injuries and not being there. But I think they survive just fine if we're not there watching and filming everything. And I think it's actually healthy for them to not always be like doted on. But I like going for my own pleasure and watching them do something they like.
Yeah.
While I have not yet had to do that divide piece, and I'm deeply looking forward to it when I do, I can say being on the other end of many people talking about their mom and dad issues, that's never come up. Just,
Like they weren't at my things.
it has like never come up. It never comes up. Like it's the only thing that comes up is like pure and total emotional neglect. And that would look a lot different if you want to read the book, like Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Children or Parents, that would give you a framework. I can pretty well guarantee nobody in this room is emotionally neglectful based on the fact that you have existed here. And I, as a psychologist, that's not the stuff I hear. They actually did a research study about what kids remember most about childhood and what they would have wanted for their parents. And the parents guessed that they wanted more time, that the kids wanted more time with them. The kids actually said, no, I wanted mom and dad to be less stressed. I wanted them to feel better and to be doing okay because I just loved them so much. It wasn't anything about time. So I always tell my physicians that I'm like, listen, that's not the thing that comes up. I talk about it all the time. So yes, I'm out.
That's
No, I love
interesting.
that. And I used to say this when my kids were little, they were daycare babies, and I always had all this mom guilt about having daycare babies. And I can tell you that they all turned out fine, and none of them regret being daycare babies. Like it's all good.
Well, two of my kids went to daycare, and then my husband stayed home for 10 years. And the kids that were with him all the time just thought it was so unfair that they couldn't go to daycare. And they were like, why did Grace and James get to go to daycare and we can't? And it's like, well, you have the luxury of having your dad take care of you and take you to Fontenelle Forest. And they're like, we don't want that. We want to go to daycare.
My daughter was the 11th grandchild on my husband's side and the first one on my side. And my mother-in-law said, I've never had a grandchild go to daycare. And I said, well, there's a first time for everything. And when she went to kindergarten, my husband was terrified because he'd spent his first 5 years of his life with his mother on the farm by himself because he was the baby by a lot. And he hated kindergarten every day. And so when we dropped her off and she was the first one to go out the door and she just was so self-assured and he's like, that made every penny of daycare so worth it. He was more mortified than she was about the whole thing. It's totally fine. And I want to circle back. I really appreciate what you had to say, Dr. George. And we have another question to kind of pivot on top of that, but I want to circle back to one quick thing that took me a while to realize because I had two parents who were incredibly loving and very present, but also both worked growing up. But I felt like their marriage almost suffered because of how devoted they were to to us, my sister and I as children. And it took me a long time, but I realized I wouldn't say that we ever make plans as a couple and intentionally don't go to a child's event. That's not it. But if we happen to have 2 days away together for some time to reconnect, and they happen to have a ball game, I don't feel like it's in the world. And they seem very understanding of that. And we've tried to model that, especially in our marriage, because I felt like that wasn't something, I felt like my parents cared very much about each other. They're still together, but it was hard. And I feel like taking the time, especially with two working individuals, and even if it's not two, one working, because you're just so, especially for you individuals that have so many children that you're trying to chase around. But I've always felt like that's something that I didn't learn very well, that we really tried to model, and it's been a big difference. So there was a question in the chat that I wanted to add to this. Leah shared, I had to take a pay cut to get a schedule to not have to miss my kids' events. I wonder, how do others balance going to their events while thriving financially in careers? For now, private practice helps.
One of the things that we talk about a lot, I talk about a lot with clients, is streamlining your financial picture and being really clear about where you are spending. And yes, part-time private practice, at least temporary, these things are pretty good, but one spouse, one house, if you can, and being really clear on where your financial priorities are and not having that overgrowth. because many of us can afford, the fancy car, the fancy house, and being really careful not to let that take hold. And, you know, as much as it's like kitschy, some of the white coat investor stuff is not bad. So
I'm sorry that I got like my power died, but what was the question?
Oh, so this individual said she had to take a pay cut to get a schedule to not have to miss kids' events. And she wonders, how do others balance going to their events while thriving financially in their career?
I don't think I'm the right one to answer this because I've always worked full time, but at the same time, I've also like chosen academic positions where I have more time to spend with my kids and more coverage. I could get paid a lot more in private practice, but I'd be working a lot more nights. And so like figuring out what's important. And clearly your kids are important to you because you chose that schedule change. And you don't have to drive the best car or live in the biggest neighborhood to like be happy with your kids and what's really, I think you have your priorities straight, like what's important in life.
I think those were really good answers to a really hard question.
I might
Um,
I might add one thing, Melissa.
yeah,
I am
go for
private
it.
practice, and there are times, right or wrong, I don't know. You can feel the squeeze when your schedule gets really tight and you don't have time, like place to put people. And if I end up needing to leave for something for my child or one of my parents is ill or something, I will add a day. So I don't work 5 days a week, and so I have a day or two flex as admin, and so I will add, or I'll come in early that day, or I'll stay a little bit later. So sometimes it's just if the practice you're in has the flexibility to allow you to, I have to take off at 3, but I'm going to come in at 7 and start early that day and try, or I'm okay to work through lunch. We employ several women in our practice, and we've tried to work with flexibility with what works for their schedule. We have some people that are previous military and they like to start at 7:30 and be done by 3:30 because that was more the schedule they worked at the fort. And then others that like to start at 8:30 and then go till 4:30. So I think finding a practice that is open to what works for you is really important. So I hope that this person can find that flexibility.
I would echo that. I think having enough money is important. Having too much money, I almost feel like sometimes it like disconnects us from reality. Not having enough money is painful. So like figure out how much you need and being okay with not having the nicest house or the nicest cars is so freeing because then it's like you're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. You can take vacations because you're driving a Honda Civic or whatever, you know. Um, and if you make expensive choices, that's what you spend your money on. And if just are okay in certain neighborhoods that are safe and fun for your kids, but your house isn't the fanciest, then maybe you can go on a vacation every once in a while and that kind of thing. So, um, I don't know. I feel like I've gone through I've seen other people's houses and I've seen other people's cars and I've gone through jealousy and then I've looked at amortization schedules of like, if I got a new house and if this is my, interest rate and this is how much I bought it for. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stay here because that's awesome. It's like I feel like I've gone through all the things in my head and I've landed at just stay here. That's the best choice.
Yeah, I would say one of the best things that we ever did was stay in the house that we lived in residency until after our second child was so like almost 5 years and paid down a ton of debt in order to just have like a comfortable cushion. And it's allowed me to work part-time um, since that time, since our second was born. I know you can't go back and make decisions like that necessarily, but you could decide to drive, like my car is paid off and I'm going to continue to drive it until it won't take me anyplace. Those kind of things. Um, that has just made it more comfortable, I think.
All right. So next question here. Dr. George, you mentioned something about like kids just want to see their parents like happy, and not stressed. And then Sagan, you said one of the ways that you try to model to your kids, kind of like good boundary setting and like good spousal health or marital health, is you try to like take those date nights and tell your kids like, we need this, as a couple. So one of the questions that I had is how do we best model healthy stress management and healthy boundary setting to our children? I feel like I need to hear this one because my kids see me stressed a lot.
Okay, I think I can take this one. Okay. It is not that you are not experiencing stress. You should be experiencing stress in front of your children. Showing them that you are never stressed or that you never experience sadness or grief or panic or anxiety or anger is a problem. They need to see you experiencing those things. Where it becomes an issue is if you make it their responsibility to resolve, or if you become abusive with language, which nobody in here is doing, or physically, obviously. The best thing that you can do is have a bucket of coping skills that you use in live time in front of them, and you just walk through what you're doing. For example, I'm trying to think with my 3.5-year-old. With my 3.5-year-old, just 5 minutes before I got on the call. Here's an example. I'm trying to hastily eat a taco between having a patient, eating a taco, and starting this. My 3.5-year-old says, "Mommy, I want yogurt." I said, "Mommy is a little bit stressed out right now." He said, "Oh, really? Why, Mommy?" I said, "Mommy scheduled her schedule too full." And he said, "Okay." And I said, let's breathe with me a little bit. So he took 10 deep breaths with me. He said, "You feel better, Mom?" I said, "I do actually feel better." And he said, "Do you want some chocolate chunks? Because that's another stress management strategy we try." So he offered that. And then to wrap it up, I said, "I think tomorrow we should take the morning off. Like, do you want to take the morning off together? Because we worked so hard today. Maybe we should have like some extra time tomorrow to hang out and like go to breakfast or something." And he said, "Yeah, I like that a lot." So like you're walking through, you're almost like kind of problem solving with them and like using them a bit as an external hard drive, make it fun for them, have a little bit of a game for yourself. But they'll start to interestingly like participate, and that's kind of how co-regulation works. And as long as you're not off the chain, yelling, screaming, crying, or anything, it'll be fine. They will like it. They will see it as a game. And then you'll actually watch them start to do it with their friends, which is incredible to see. And yeah, it's actually like it can be fun, but it requires you to get your toolbox really full. And your toolbox can include both healthy and unhealthy coping strategies. And that's totally fine. And you should have a balance of both, like chocolate chunks and breathing. Anyway.
I love that. I've gotten that free Nike training app, and a couple times, like my son and I have done like a 12-minute yoga or something, and especially at night before bed, and you end in Shavasana, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so great," and the deep breathing and that kind of thing. And Tammy, I love that you kind of take care of yourself and go running. Just taking care of the basic needs that we have, I think are really important. Um, Nika, this is I love that you said that it's important for us to share like the whole range of feelings with our kids. In 2017, I lost my mom, and in hindsight, I feel like I didn't quite share like my grief with them enough, and they all actually, also lost their grandma, and so I think I probably could have been better about like grieving with them and sharing my loss with them and like walking that journey with them. But I feel like it was like we're so busy that it's like I have to go back to work, and you plan a funeral and then you do the things and you go back to work. And so I feel like it's really important for us to share our joy and our struggles, grief, stress, everything with them, to show them like, oh, this is a healthy way to experience this emotion, and just to help model things.
I think that's a really great comment, Carrie, and thank you for sharing. Especially, my mother would always say, the things that you imagine as a child are so much worse than if you just told them the truth. We had a couple friends when I was in elementary school that had passed away, and I think everybody looked at her in shock when she took me to the funeral, and she said she's going to imagine these things. Like, this is just a part of learning and a part of life. We know this is cycle. And so that was really helpful. I think one of the things I would also echo, like, I think we talk about boundary setting, like it's like you've arrived. Like, it is a constant work in progress. And I think that's what's important. And even my family will notice, like, oh, mom hasn't had an opportunity to go for a run or a walk lately. Like, maybe that's part of the issue. Like, and I'll just be like, I'm just going to step out of the house. I'll be back in 30 minutes. And I think when you have family systems that can communicate and experience those things together, like you said, Dr. George, I think that really helps when you can see what the others might need. But you also have to be open to seeing that. And sometimes we get so into whatever the issue is that it's hard to step back and see that. So sometimes it's just taking the deep breath to stand back and see.
I've had times when I don't know if any of the other possibly women in this webinar have ever been to the point where everyone's super annoying and nothing good can come from interacting with anyone you love. So I've been like, I kind of don't like anyone, and I'm just gonna go in my room and I will see you all tomorrow, because if I interact with anyone, it will not be positive. And so peace out, people. And I feel like that was better than what would have happened if I stayed and tried to like interact with people when I was in a like certain state of mind. It was like do no harm type thing.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on this topic? I want to take a little bit of a pivot to a question that came from our that was asked ahead of time, and it's about paperwork and messages when we're away from the office. And if this person is on the call, you might clarify a little bit, but if not, that's fine. We'll go with what we have. So they're asking, how do you reduce the inbox burden of messages, especially on vacations, as an endocrinologist? We don't have a coverage option, but it's available on request to a colleague whom you would also cover back, but that feels like more work to them. So they're asking how you all manage that when you're away from the office.
I think different organizations have to create systems that work for them. It's a yeah, Melissa, I would agree. It's like such a super common problem. I think in my group we have day call and night call, and we do take turns. But if I'm gone for a day, I'll be like, oh, don't cover my. I'll check in. I've got it. I've got it. But really, it's like if it's supposed to be a day off and restorative, I should just step away and actually let my colleague handle my in-basket. And then when they are gone, I will handle their in-basket. And I think that's like ideal. But I know we're all like, oh, I don't want to bother them. So I keep peeking in and like messing with it all day. So like in my free time when I'm away, I'll hop on Haiku on my phone and like just try to chip away at things, just so it's not too burdensome for my colleague. But I think every system is unique and different. It's like every, Melissa said, did UNMC always have that coverage? I think it's clinic specific. And so our clinic covers each other during the day, and then all of the internists cover each other at night. So like Stephanie might cover for me, even though she's out west and I'm on main campus. So, but I think every organization has its own unique coverage, and I think it's really helpful to figure out a way to get something in the system so that when you leave, you're not peeking at your in-basket the whole time.
I have a couple things to say about that. So I work at Methodist, and they have a really unique model where me as an internal medicine doctor, I job share with one of my colleagues. So we basically work every other day. So I work part-time. We have our own panel So I still answer like my patient questions on my days off, but I don't have to do all my med refills. So she covers my med refills when I'm not there and vice versa. So that's really helpful. And then we just have built-in call coverage. Like if I take vacation, she's my default coverage person because she's the one working every day. So that's a really, really awesome model that Methodist has. There's 3 sets of us at my clinic who do that. So 6 women who do that. The other thought that I had when I read this question was, I have done this before, but this isn't my idea. This was somebody else's idea that I read. So if you take a vacation, like if you're gone for a week and you're supposed to resume work on Monday, like maybe come back to work Monday afternoon, so you have your morning to catch up, like build in time to like catch up before you start seeing patients again.
I think that's a great suggestion, Melissa. And I've done that a little bit. I'm terrible at this. Like most of the time I don't mind taking care of it because I kind of like to know what's going on. So I wouldn't say that's a good behavior, but it's just part of and I don't want to come back to 100 documents to review and 200 labs and then you're for that same reason. So I definitely think if you want to know exactly what's going on, and we have a couple colleagues in our clinic. We have nurses that do our med refills. They have a protocol, like they don't do everything, but if people have had their appointments appropriately, we have nurses behind the scenes that are doing that. They can always ask questions if there's questions. 2 colleagues that if they're gone, they typically are not following their inbox at all. So their nurses are very well versed. If it's something that needs immediate attention that day, it goes to the on-call person. And we usually have somebody that's on call Monday through Thursday, and then somebody that's on call through the weekend. So that person on call will take care of that, and it'll go back to that person during the week while they're gone. And so that helps. And then those individuals, they just get caught up with all their documents and labs to review before they come back. And then any notes that can wait until they're back, they'll just sit in their inbox and that nothing pressing goes in there. So that is one way that can be done as well. And I don't know, they mentioned specifically endocrinology, so I don't know if it's diabetic blood sugars, that probably requires a little bit more attention, but perhaps somebody that was on call that day in the clinic, that could work. But this will be a constant. I mean, there's been times that I think as you get older, like we've been out of the country and physically cannot look at the computer. It was really actually very good for me to have to like say, sorry, I'm out. And so, but I think there was a give and take. It sounded like they didn't want to necessarily do the share part, but I think if you're going to have someone cover for you, then it seems fair that you would cover for them, as long as it's a fair opportunity and not slanted one way versus the other. So.
Yeah, my situation's a little bit different since I'm a subspecialist, but I have nurses who triage my inbox and do a fantastic job, and I've just trained them, and they know what's urgent and when they need to reach out. So if I'm out, I don't check my inbox. I do have partners who aren't necessarily they're pulmonary, but they're not pulmonary hypertension, and can answer some questions. And sometimes my nurses will reach out to me directly, but for the most part, they know how to handle it until I get back. And so learning how to, having a team. And then I was just going to, I don't know if I'm allowed to on ACP, but AMA, like the wellness, they have a whole module on like Epic inbox management. Like Shanna Felt is like one of the gurus in wellness and medicine. And so I think that might be helpful for the person as well.
Oh, that's good. Good suggestion.
Lauren, what does Boys Town do? Or other systems have any other different models?
Mine is still we have nurses, and I will say it's fine to share the AMA resources. Similar to what Segan shared is that I don't work full time. I mostly check my inbox on my days off because I like to be able to answer the questions, and my nurses have triaged and, important stuff or called me. So it's easier for me to keep up. So mostly we have nurses and there's only 4 of us. So like somebody's covering, if something needs to be immediately addressed in clinic, they'll grab whoever is closest, whoever is on call. I am leaving the country for 2 weeks in 2 weeks. And
Yay!
I am having some internal anxiety about not being able to check my inbox, mostly because I don't want the inbox when I come back. But to your point earlier, Segan, it is that much more freeing to be gone for 2 weeks and not checking my inbox. And I was even reminding myself earlier today, like that stress of my inbox is only very short lived. So it might be like hell for 36 hours. It is short lived compared to like the time on vacation without my inbox with my family. So I feel like it's a give and take. If I'm like out of town in Florida for a week, sometimes it's fine to like go take my computer to a coffee shop. And maybe, Carrie, this is another thing you might have inspired me about back in the day, but like I don't have a problem taking my inbox for a little while to hide from the family if I need some quiet
Exactly. Oh
time.
my gosh. Yeah, like if you're midweek and you're like, I need to get out of here. You're like, I really have to go take care of some things.
I have to go work. I just need quiet time. So I think we vary in how we do it. I think I'm lucky I've got flexibility in my system and good nurses and a good team. So
I think that's really key. You have to feel comfortable with your coverage because ultimately you're the one that's responsible for what's happening. So like Tammy mentioned, she's got great nursing triage. And if you feel comfortable with that and you can sit with that, then I think that's great. But you have to feel comfortable since you're the one ultimately in charge of all that. And then Leah put a great comment in the quote about this being a great subtopic. If there's a large company like Form Health that is mom friendly, the coverage system is efficiently designed to ensure truly free time. So something that we might want to look into. But
one thing, if I can add on that too, I think it's system issue, but it's a patient issue too. And I've also found, I hate the terminology training patients, but like if your patients know that you're leaving town and prior to, like if they know that from you, they respect that. I think I found, and some of them are like, they're going to, I don't know. Sometimes you have jerks who demand an answer in 5 minutes, and that's fine too. But I think I'm honest with patients that I'm like, I'm not going to be in town. If something important is coming up with this x-ray next week, somebody will let you know. But I think as much as having a system issue, I think being honest and with patients about it. So that's my 2 cents.
good point. And also sharing with patients, you feel really comfortable with your partners because sometimes they'll be like, what am I going to do? You're gone. You are in perfectly good hands. I trust everyone that could possibly see you. And I think that sometimes is on us to share that with them, to give them that confidence.
I guess I would just add, I'm older than some of you guys, but I had some health issues and I was forced to take some time off, and it was a little bit freeing because I realized, things happen without me. Like, because I think sometimes, you think, I have to do this because I do this best, but you see, wait, everything's taken care of. It'll be okay. I can come back and the ship will still be standing. We'll still be floating.
I think doctors are maybe kind of control freaks, right? So yeah. Okay. I think we'll have time for one, maybe two more questions. So this question is, do high achievers or high performers tend to burn out faster? If so, why? I think of the analogy that operating like a race car requires more frequent maintenance than a standard sedan would to avoid breaking down. Does this resonate with any of you guys?
I do think, Lauren, you may have remembered Dr. Rob Schwab used to say it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think at my prior work, I was like, just get them in, get them in, get them in, and you can see, I don't know, I'll just pull numbers out. Like you can see 22 a day or you can see 16 a day. You might last a little bit longer if you see 16 a day and then trust your other colleagues or immediate care clinic or whatever to handle the acute stuff. So I think that's such a challenge, but it is a marathon. And so like if you slowly start neglecting like the runs, the sleep, the eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, drinking water, and you just try to crank it all day, I do think it does catch up with us. So if we want to be doctors for a really long time, it's probably good to treat it like a long training session and not like burnout.
I can say that for the caseload that I see, and considering that this is a specified treatment seeking group, treatment seeking population, the folks I see do tend to be a little bit more sensitive than the average bear and do tend to, there's actually a highly sensitive person questionnaire that I almost always give the physicians I see, and they tend to score pretty highly on this, which just indicates that like they may intake more information from their environment than the average bear and then synthesize it more deeply than the average bear. And because they're gathering more information from their environment more quickly, they might need a little bit more downtime to process it all the way, and then feel regulated about that. But it's also what makes them such good physicians. There's also a really high amount of neurodivergence in the physician community. So like ADD, autism spectrum, highly sensitive person, giftedness is a form of neurodivergence, dyslexia, I mean, you name it. But it basically makes you better and smarter, which is not, I think, the way that we're trying to think about that sort of stuff. But I say all that to say, like, yes, in my case, what I've seen is there is a more sensitive nervous system, but it's almost not until something breaks that then you see folks attending to that more sensitive nervous system. So it's not until like my female physicians develop 3 autoimmune conditions and they show up in my office, or like, somebody gets hurt, somebody dies, there's a traumatic event, like something usually has to happen, and then they will attend to it. And then after attending to it, they do a lot better clinically, actually, and, with partnerships and with kids, but it's, so it's like they might not think originally, like I'm more sensitive because it got so far because they're so smart. But in fact, the structure of it probably is a little more sensitive in my experience.
Do you think, Dr. George, in those cases, if those individuals had recognized that early on in their training, I don't know exactly when, and had more preventive maintenance, things would have, I mean, they could have prevented. I mean, obviously there's all circumstances that can happen, but I, I think like when Carrie and I trained, I don't know that we did a whole lot of that. I think it's becoming more, but I still don't know that it's, and that's in a system, but I think personally we have a responsibility to do that too. So I guess I would ask you, I see you nodding, so
Yeah.
I'll let you come.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. But it's different than what most people think. So it's not like, yes, if we intervened early and if we caught this stuff early, like, can you imagine what it would have been like as a child to be seen as like gifted, highly sensitive, taught emotion regulation, like really early on, and then like what's too much for you, and like what hard things are appropriate, hard things to engage with, and like what your line is there. Like if we caught it that early, if we're talking like, childhood, heck yeah, you wouldn't develop, I mean, that's preventative for depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, as you know, autoimmune stuff, etc. But if we're even talking like later in college, med school, and residency and fellowships, yes, preventative care actually promotes longevity, but preventative care is a lot different than just like a wellness seminar. It's not like, hey, you learn to breathe better. Have you ever thought about meditating? That's not like a helpful thing to tell people. Like you have to do both, just exactly like what you're saying. Like there's an individual impetus and responsibility, and then a systemic impetus and responsibility, and like both have to be consolidated. And if the system isn't working for you and you have any amount of power, then you influence the system if you can by leaving it, modifying it, whatever. So yes is the answer to your question.
And pushing just a little bit further, I feel like it's a little bit challenging because in identifying some of those things, you don't want that person to feel paralyzed or like they're incapable or that they have this special thing that, then you have the kid who's like, I can't do anything because, this is my excuse. And I don't want to that sounds heartless. That's not what I meant. But I think you understand, like,
Yes.
That to me, and that happens with our children too sometimes, just making sure, how do I balance those emotions of this experience that we're having without making them feel like they failed at something, but learning and growing.
Have you guys read the book? Maybe you guys already know about this book. Have you read the book called Grit? It's by Angela Duckworth. I think that's a really good
Is she the
one.
congressman?
Well, she
No,
might be
Tammy
now.
Duckworth. Never mind. Sorry.
Angela
Tammy Duckworth. Sorry.
She does like she's a clinical psychologist who does research on appropriate balance between like high achievement, distress tolerance, and like wellness and burnout. And she talks about how to develop grit in people, children, etc., because it's actually an extremely healthy characteristic that promotes great things. And then we don't want to get rid of it, but we just want to make sure that like there's graded exposure as opposed to just like shoving somebody in like, I don't know, deal with it, which is what a lot of folks report to me, at least their experience with like med school, fellowship, whatever it was the case. But yeah, grit, it's great. There's some, like every book, there are some things that you're like, I don't know if I agree exactly with that, but her research is very sound.
Thank you.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, I want to respect everybody's time. We have this scheduled until 7:30. I have like 10 more questions I could do, but because you guys, this is such good conversation, and I really appreciate everybody being here, and thank you so much to our speakers and to Casey and Trish for helping me put this on or helping us get this Zoom thing going. We do have a poll here to end it. I think Casey is going to put it up for me. Just a few questions like if you like this, how the format, that sort of thing. So Casey, if you're out there, go ahead and post the poll. And then if anybody has, topic ideas that you would want to hear about next time, you can email me or Sagan, and we'd be happy to coordinate that for next time. Casey, are you there?
I'm going to launch the poll right now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, can everybody see that? Great. All right, you guys, well, when you're done with the poll, you can feel free to log off.
Together. Thanks for putting so much thought into this, Melissa.
Yeah, I was really, really excited to do this. And I look forward to doing more. So thanks everyone so much. So feel free to finish the poll and then you can all log off, okay? And have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This was great, Mel. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.